Thank you for the kind introduction, Holger, and I want to thank everybody here. First of all, I'm amazed. Every year it seems that we have more and more people at this EIKE conference, and every seat is filled, and I have to say this is probably the largest event yet, the best attended event. So I congratulate everybody in this room because it's so important to stand up for sound science. And perhaps even more so, I want to congratulate people who are watching all around the world via live stream, especially those in my home United States, because, for example, in Chicago, where the Heartland Institute is, it is now 3 o'clock in the morning. And there are many things that can be going on at 3 o'clock in the morning, not the least of which is sleep. And yet still, we have people that understand the importance of standing up for sound science, of standing up for truth, and watching this event today. So thank you, everybody who's watching live on the live stream. Now, I want to say a few words before we get to the panel presentations, or excuse me, the speaker presentations, about the duty and the importance of being a skeptic. Because with each passing year, with each passing month, with each passing day, the scientific evidence gets stronger and stronger, supporting what we've been saying all along, that humans are not creating a global warming crisis. And rather than accepting this good news with cheer and joy, the United Nations, climate activists around the world, they respond by becoming more desperate in their attacks on people who stand up for the truth, on people who report the good news. With each day, the attacks become more sharp. They become more personal. Skeptics are vilified. We're called deniers. We're called flat earthers. We're called much worse. Al Gore compares us to wife beaters, to slave owners, to apartheid supporters, to mass murderers, to Nazis, you name it. And it's not just Al Gore. It takes courage, it takes guts to stand up, especially publicly, for skepticism. The scientists who will be presenting today and tomorrow, these are scientists, many of whom are putting their careers at jeopardy and at risk because the global warming activist crowd will do anything possible to silence them, including take away their jobs, including taking away their tenure. It is more important than ever that we stand up for this truth against this assault. And really, when you think about it, what is skepticism? The duty of being a skeptic is the duty of standing up for the scientific method. In a word, that is what skepticism is, the scientific method. The scientific method, we can boil it down to just a few simple points. One, we make observations. Two, from those observations, we form a hypothesis. Three, we test the hypothesis against evidence. And then four, we form conclusions. We see if the evidence falsifies the hypothesis. Because we adhere to the scientific method, we have discovered flaws in the alarmist narrative. The very first United Nations IPCC assessment report in 1990, they predicted straightforward, explicitly, that we would see 0.3 degrees Celsius of warming each decade from that point on. 30 years later, we can take the prediction and weigh it against evidence. We can employ the scientific method. And what have we found? Well, skeptics had said back in 1990, we see temperatures rising at about 0.1 degrees Celsius, so we expect that to continue. In the real world, temperature measurements since 1990 show temperatures have risen merely 0.13 degrees Celsius, much closer to the skeptics and the alarmists. Back in 1990, when skeptics said, we don't believe this 0.3 degree prediction, we think it's 0.1, we were vilified. We were called anti-science. We were called mavericks. We were called flat earthers. And yet we've been closer to the truth by employing the scientific method. Now, as a result, the United Nations IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they now admit they were wrong. And now they predict 0.2 degrees Celsius. In other words, they're already admitting that we were as close as they were from the very beginning. And pretty soon they're going to have to come down even from 0.2 degrees because it's only 0.13 degrees. It's not just the overall warming trend in which skeptics have been vilified. The IPCC predicted we would have glacier-free Himalayas by 2030. That's not happening. Al Gore told us the Arctic would already be ice-free. That hasn't happened. In fact, just this month, many of you may have seen this in the media, there was a great story, a beautiful, beautiful example of what we're up against. The assertion was made, a study came out predicting that we would have more warming in the future than even was previously predicted, saying that the warming of the oceans had taken place more rapidly than previously expected. Global warming is now worse than feared. This was reported in newspaper, media outlet all over the globe. None of these reporters asked a skeptic for our opinion. If they had asked me, I would have said, well, I've seen these claims before, and they're usually done by doctoring the data or by making assumptions that turn out not to be true. Well, what happened? A skeptic went and looked at the paper, found the flaws in the methodology, and the authors of the paper had to admit that, well, okay, their prediction was wrong. For 2 weeks, it was presented in the media that this was a fact, that it's worse than we thought. Global warming is going to be even worse. Because of skeptics who were vilified and called flat earthers and wife beaters and slave owners, etc., the truth is now told. The truth is now known about temperatures being less than the IPCC predicted because of skeptics. Because of skeptics, we know that while hurricanes were predicted to be stronger and more frequent, that's not the case. We compared the predictions to the data. Tornadoes are not more frequent and severe, as was predicted. Droughts are not more frequent and severe. Flooding is not more frequent and severe. Wildfires are not more frequent and severe. True, global warming did not make all of these go away. You still have some hurricanes and tornadoes. But when you look at the data, when we employ the scientific method, we see that there are no more hurricanes or tornadoes or droughts or floods than there were 40, 50, 60, or 100 years ago. That's the importance of standing up for the scientific method. That's the importance of skepticism. And it's not just in the scientific realm. When we stand up for sound science, we are standing up morally for human welfare and standards of living. Because what is being proposed to address this so-called global warming crisis are restrictions on energy production and use that impoverish people. When you take away the most affordable energy sources, you are imposing more costs on society, you're taking money out of people's pockets. And it's not money that people sit around and just count gold coins for fun. This is money when we have a wealthier society, people can purchase better health care, better homes, better education, better nutrition. These are things that make life healthier, longer lasting, and more enjoyable. For that reason, it's also an economic and a moral imperative to stand up for skepticism. Tying it all together, the scientists that will be presenting over the next 2 days, you in this room that are paying attention and taking time out of your schedules, people around the world that are listening to both sides and weighing the evidence. You're doing more than standing up for truth. You're standing up for truth, but you're also standing up for a better life for people all around the world. And for that, I commend you. Enjoy the program.